Good evening. Welcome to the March 21st edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. I'm glad you're all with us tonight. As is our normal practice, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Jose,
Here.
Commissioner Wallace,
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit, here. Commissioner Cullivaney,
Here.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Here.
Commissioner Glover.
Here. Full house tonight. Good to see everybody. And good to see everybody out there, too. Thanks for being here tonight. It's a special evening. A couple of points about how the meeting will go forward. There will be opportunities for public comment at various stages of the meeting. Public comment portions of our agenda are important, valued parts of each council meeting, and we have provisions at the same for each active and first reading agenda item. There is also an opportunity for public comment near the end of the meeting on items not on either the active or first reading agendas. Please remember, however, we're counting on everyone here to treat each other with respect and to treat this meeting with the decorum it deserves. Those that follow our meetings will recognize that this council allows extended commentary and input from the public and seldom, if ever, cuts anyone off, sometimes to the chagrin of some. Beyond tonight's meeting, there are a variety of additional opportunities to engage council members, including our e-remarks system, the CRC system, Coffee with the Council, direct email, or by phone. And every one of your council members spends time in person, off days, making themselves available to residents and businesses across the community. In fact, those one-on-one conversations are often the most valuable. Your council is listening. We're taking notes and considering what's said. Often some time is needed to reflect on comments presented. That same consideration is expected of everyone in the room. When you hear a comment with which you disagree, please don't react. Just take some time to reflect on another viewpoint. And rest assured your council, too, is hearing and seriously considering all comments made. If you do plan to speak tonight, a few things to keep in mind when you come to the podium. Please state your name for the record. Address your comments to me as the chair of the meeting. Keep comments to 5 minutes or less. Avoid repeating what others have already said. Please keep your comments to one visit to the podium per subject. And remember that comments are most effective when they focus on subjects within the scope of Downers Grove Village governance. Thank you all for your participation and for being here tonight. We have an exciting evening. There are some presentations which we're about to make. We have had both members of our public safety teams and members of the public who've shown outstanding above and beyond service through the course of the last year. And so I think we'll start with Chief DeVries. Come on up. We've got some neat stories to tell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us this evening. I'm here tonight to present awards on behalf of the Police Department and the Police Department's Commendation Committee. Our officers respond to routine calls for service every day, providing great service to the residents and visitors of Downers Grove. On occasion, our calls require both our officers and members of the public to go above and beyond to help others, make a difference, and in some cases, save lives. Tonight, we're here to recognize a few individuals who went above and beyond. I'd like to invite up Miss Caitlin Finnan. On June 25, 2022, Downers Grove officers responded to the area of Maple Avenue and Dunham Road for a report of a person who passed out and was laying on the sidewalk. On this evening, Miss Caitlin Finnan was on her way home when she observed a woman sitting off the roadway on a concrete wall. The woman looked as if she was experiencing a medical condition and was going to pass out. After Miss Finnan passed, she decided to turn around her vehicle and call 911. Ms. Finnan positioned her vehicle by the sidewalk and activated her hazard lights in order to alert first responders to her location. By the time Ms. Finnan had repositioned her vehicle, the female had collapsed on the sidewalk. Shortly after, Officer Matt Preby and Officer Nick Pastrana arrived on scene. Ms. Finnan directed them to the woman, who they determined did not have a pulse. Officers Preby and Pastrana began life-saving measures, and after a short period of time were able to find a pulse before Downers Grove Fire Department paramedics arrived on scene. The woman was then transported to the hospital, where she survived. If not for the quick thinking and selfless actions of Ms. Finnan, a life may not have been saved that evening. It is for these reasons that Ms. Caitlin Finnan is being presented with the Downers Grove Police Department's Distinguished Service Award. Next, I'd like to call up Mr. Gregory Gardner. On April 14th, 2022, Downers Grove officers responded to the DuPage Credit Union for a bank robbery that had just occurred. Responding officers spoke with one of the bank's customers, Mr. Gregory Gardner, who was outside of the bank just before the robbery and witnessed the man leave the bank with his face covered and carrying a plastic bag. This person had also left a bike outside of the bank, making for a quick exit. He observed this man ride off on a bicycle southbound into the residential neighborhood. Based on his suspicions, Mr. Gardner followed the man in his vehicle. He observed the man turn the corner on the next street and leave the bike on the side of a residence. Mr. Gardner then observed a vehicle pull up and pick up the man and drive away. Mr. Gardner obtained a vehicle description and a partial license plate on an out-of-state plate before he returned to the bank where he had learned that it had just been robbed. Using this information provided by Mr. Gardner, our investigators worked swiftly and were able to locate the offending vehicle and make an arrest of one of the individuals approximately 4 hours later. If not for the quick thinking and selfless actions of Mr. Gardner, this may not have been possible. It is for these reasons that Mr. Gregory Gardner is being presented with the Downers Grove Police Department's Award of Merit. Next, I'd like to call up Officer Kevin Chapin. On October 12, 2022, Downers Grove officers, including Officer Kevin Chapin, responded to a call of a person standing on the train tracks near the Main Street Depot. Officer Chapin arrived on scene and located a man standing on the tracks, quickly pulling him off as an inbound freight train approached. Officer Chapin escorted the man to a nearby business where officers joined him to assist. After building a rapport with the man, officers learned that he recently began experiencing several setbacks and was attempting to end his life. Officer Chapin pulled the male from the train tracks shortly before the train passed through. If not for Officer Chapin's quick response and selfless actions, a life may not have been saved that evening. It is for these reasons that Officer Kevin Chapin is being presented with the Downers Grove Police Department's Life Saving Award. Thank you very much. I'd like to invite up Chief Spinizzola. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Barnett, Village Council, and residents of the Downers Grove. Tonight is a special night. We have and will hear more stories about efforts of members of the Downers Grove Public Safety Team and residents of the Village Downers Grove that have made a positive impact in people's lives. I'd also tonight like to present and am pleased to announce the Downers Grove Fire Department has received the Mission Lifeline Gold Plus Award. Mission Lifeline EMS recognition is a program designed to showcase pre-hospital agencies nationwide for excellence in heart attack and stroke care. Pre-hospital personnel are the first care providers to patients suffering from acute injuries and emergencies. The Downers Grove Fire Department plays a vital role in the care system of these patients and is crucial in setting the course of a patient's outcome. Since 2016, the Downers Grove Fire Department has been a Mission Lifeline award-winning agency. For this is our fourth year achieving the Gold Plus Award, which is an amazing accomplishment and demonstrates the high level of service provided by the Downers Grove Fire Department. It's the hard work, dedication, commitment of our fire department team members, and support of the Village of Downers Grove staff that makes the Downers Grove Fire Department one of the best in the nation. At this time, I'd like to present this award to Deputy Chief Rob Pickelder and Deputy Chief Tom Frank.
Good. That'll be fine. This has nothing to do with my saying. We'll fix it. Thank you.
As we've heard from Chief DeVries, we also have had a few calls that definitely need to be recognized. But one in particular, I'd like to call up Terry Madden and Jeff Mertz, please. At this time, I'd like to describe a call for service that was a collaborative effort between our fire department and two residents of the Village of Downers Grove. It is their efforts that set the stage for a successful outcome and exemplifies the success of early CPR and advanced medical treatment, which are crucial components of the chain of survival. At approximately 5:45 on December 16th, retired Lisle Woodridge Fire District Captain Terry Madden and retired Downers Grove Police Officer Jeffrey Mertz were at a local restaurant when a patron became ill and was assisted to the floor. At this time, it was determined the person was not breathing and did not have a pulse. Terry Madden and Jeff Mertz controlled the crowd and initiated CPR. Crews rapidly provided care, identified a cardiac rhythm that required early defibrillation, which restored the patient's pulse, and he began to breathe without assistance. Upon arrival at the emergency, the patient was alert and answering questions. The American Heart Association studies highlight the importance of early and effective CPR in having a positive outcome and a positive patient outcome. This patient was given the best chance of survival by receiving early effective CPR performed by Captain Terry Madden and Officer Mertz. 3 days later, this individual was released from Good Samaritan Hospital. For their life-saving efforts, Terry Madden and Jeff Mertz are hereby issued the Downers Grove Fire Department Chiefs Award.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Those are fantastic stories of people really giving of themselves for their community, putting others first, putting them above anything else that's going on in their lives on behalf of somebody else, and it's awesome to see. I'm glad we take this time to make those recognitions, and I'm also glad you guys could all be here to join us. It's a fun evening for Downers Grove, and it's something we should all be really, really proud of. Is there a motion concerning minutes of previous council meetings?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the March 7th, 2023 minutes as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions on previous minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will just hang tight for 1 second. Okay, we will continue. Item 5 is our consent agenda. Is there a motion concerning it?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Item 6 is our active agenda. This is the portion of the meeting where we plan to take action on an item discussed previously at least one or sometimes multiple previous council meetings. Is there a motion concerning the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus Greenest Region Compact?
Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution endorsing the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus Greenest Region Compact as presented.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from the audience on this item? Please come on down to the podium.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Louise Kelly. I'm so pleased to see that this item is on the agenda tonight. And you mentioned, Mayor Barnett, a question. My question for you all is, what are you going to be discussing tonight? What option you're going to adopt? Or is it just, or is that like a later?
The item on the agenda is our official village endorsement as a signatory to the Greenest Region Compact. That's the
Okay.
question in front of us.
Okay, but not, you know what I'm talking about with options, right?
Right.
With
and
the report?
I think the way I recall our last meeting, that most folks are planning on having that discussion a little later, likely as part of our long-range planning.
Okay, great, okay. Well, I'm so pleased. My comment is this then. I'm changing my question from a question to a comment. I'm just so pleased to see that this item is before the council and that you're seriously considering adopting it, and I hope you do. Thank you.
Others?
My name is Ken Lerner. I too am pleased to see this on the agenda, and I hope it passes. I have a minor wording issue with how it was, the resolution that was presented in the packet as it was presented on Friday. I don't know if there have been any changes to it since then. But if not, the point is that words matter, and I think we're all agreed on the sentiment and the purpose involved. But in the operative paragraph at the end of the resolution, as it appeared in the packet that was posted online on Friday, it says, "Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Downers Grove endorses the Greenest Region Compact proposed by the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus and agrees to work to achieve them both in their own communities and in collaboration throughout the region." It seems to me that if this is going to be a resolution for and about Downers Grove, it should say, and with a little better English maybe, that that Downers Grove agrees to work to achieve its goals both in our own community and in collaboration throughout the region. Just for clarity and stating what we're going to do in our resolution adopting the Greenest Region Compact.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the audience? Comments or questions from the council? No? Okay. I'll just add then, I guess, as just a commentary here. This is the first step in a process that will go forward for those that may be watching or tuning in for the first time, some time ago, a couple of months ago, I think, Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit asked us to do some research relative to the Greenest Region Compact and get an understanding of what it would mean to be signatories to that agreement, which is a Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus agreement that encompasses generally suburban Chicago, and also to try and figure out where we stood as a community on the work that we had been doing to date on the goals and objectives of that compact. What is on the table tonight is for us to be just that first part, to be signatories to that agreement. This council planned, we'll see what shakes out in the coming months, but as part of our long-range planning process, to evaluate a little deeper about what we could or could not do, or should not do, as it relates to implementation. There is a pretty comprehensive, in fact, one of the most comprehensive reports that has been presented to council while I've been here, which is available on our website, last week's meeting, or 2 weeks ago's meeting, that details a lot of what we have been doing. And so our conversations in the future will be, should we do more, could we do more, and what might that look like? But for tonight, it's officially joining that compact. Any other comments from the council? Rose, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Commissioner Cullivaney?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye, that passes unanimously. That ends our active agenda tonight. We have two items, on our first reading portion of our meeting. First reading portion of the meeting is where we talk about items either for the first time or perhaps for a second or third or fourth time. But these are items on which we do not plan to take official action this evening. With that, I'll turn it over to Stan.
Thank you, Mayor Barnett. Good evening, Mayor and council members. The first item tonight we'll be talking about is a plan unit development amendment for Midwestern University located at 555 31st Street. As we all know, Midwestern University is in the northeast corner of Downers Grove on the south side of 31st Street. Campus is outlined here in blue. There's residential to the northeast, south, and part of the west. The west is principally park space as well. If we review the campus master plan, the dark green areas are permanent green open space. The existing buildings are shown in the orange color here. And in the center of campus is the proposal. The red building is a proposed new building there, and then the blue building is proposed to be demolished. The PUD is set up to have taller buildings in the center of campus. Shown here, Midwestern is proposing to construct a new academic services building here, sort of in the, I'd say, salmon color, because my things aren't working. So I'm going to ask Mike to go ahead and hit the next button here. We'll do this old school. So there's the building, the salmon color, that's the new academic services building. And then if we hit the next button with my animations, hopefully the green shows up, where that will be turned back into green space. The old Centennial Hall will be demolished and turned back to green space. If we zoom in a little bit here with the next image, you can see the image of the building. It's principally clad with precast concrete panels, glass curtain walls, and brick. The building is going to house an expanded veterinary program, which will see a slight increase in student population. Midwestern did create and undertake a traffic and parking study, which came out to say that there's going to be a slight increase in traffic and that the current parking availability will meet the demands of the new students and expanded students. We go to the next slide to talk about the comprehensive plan. A comprehensive plan identifies as institutional public, calls for the village to support operations and improvements with minimal impact on adjacent residential neighborhoods. We go to the next slide, Mike. And then the Plan Commission considered this case at their March 6th meeting and found that the standards for approval for a PUD amendment were met, and they recommended approval of the project. I'd be happy to answer your questions for the mayor and council. We also have a couple of representatives with Midwestern University here tonight as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Stan. Are there any comments or questions from the audience on this? Okay. Comments or questions from the council? Please, Leslie.
Yeah, I know the couple of things that were just brought up. The main one was stormwater, which I saw that there was kind of a plan for that. If you could detail that a little bit. And then also always the loss of trees. But from my understanding, historically, there's always been a great plan by Midwestern, and they've always been a good partner in making sure that those trees get replanted somewhere and that green space is maintained. So just, so we can kind of have it out in the open, do you mind talking a little bit about the stormwater and the plan for that green space that we were talking about?
Sure. Okay, so if you could go back a couple slides for me, Mike. So with the green space, they're going to return the Centennial Hall into an open green space area there at this location. There's already some green space there. And then the stormwater is addressed through previous improvements, and the PCBMPs will also be part of the development as well to address our stormwater ordinance. The other thing with the trees coming out was if I hit a button or whatnot here. Let's see. So the previous road came to the lower right of the former Centennial Hall, and then came up to the parking lot. And so through a permitting process, Midwestern is developing that road that's on the bottom of the screen here. And so that's a straight through, which did remove a fair amount of trees in there because that was a wooded area. But overall, it'll help circulation. And Midwestern has always done a good job of replanting trees and maintaining green space and looking for improvements along landscaping along edges of the university.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions from council? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
The next item on our first reading agenda is to consider amending certain provisions of our purchasing policy, and I'll hand it over to our village attorney, Enza Petrarca.
Thanks, Dave. This item was last discussed by the Village Council on February 21st as a new business item. At that time, the Village Council directed staff to prepare an amendment to the purchasing policy. This definition of responsible bidder has been amended to include a requirement that bidders participate in an apprenticeship program and training program approved by the Department of Labor for all contracts in excess of $50,000. Currently, our purchasing policy only requires the apprenticeship program for public works projects that are funded in whole or in part by state or federal funding. So this requirement would apply to all Downers Grove public works projects in excess of $50,000. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Enza. Any comments or questions from the audience? Comments or questions from the council? Craig, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to thank my colleagues for pushing this forward again on new business, and thank the staff for turning it around so quickly. I'm in full support, and I look forward to voting in favor of it when it's on active. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Others? Leslie?
Yep, I was not here when it was discussed last time. I was out of the country, but I was happy to see it on our first reading. It's well-written, and I look forward to supporting it next go-around.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Dave.
That ends our first reading tonight, Mayor, and I'll take the liberty of announcing we have no manager's report tonight either. Thank you.
Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have the ordinance approving the amendment to Plan Unit Development 51 to the revisions of the Campus Master Plan at Midwestern University. It will be on the next active agenda. That is all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10 on our agenda tonight. This is the public comments portion of the meeting. This is the portion of the meeting where we take public comment on items not on the active agenda or the first reading agenda. So if there's anyone with something to add to please come on down to the podium.
Marshall Schmidt, 4923 Sealy. At the last Village Council meeting on March 7th, Mayor Barnett spoke at length about trees in Downers Grove. He contended that the village had made progress in expanding the canopy of trees in Downers Grove. He also said that the year after COVID, the village had planted almost 900 trees. He repeated these statements recently and criticized me for citing as an example of the impact of overdevelopment the loss of trees on Dunham Road. But my example was representative of the data that Mayor Barnett chose not to share at the last meeting. In fact, the tree canopy over residential areas in the village shrunk during the period between 2010 and 2017, which was the most recent time period for which I could find data from the source cited by the mayor. This decrease is due in part, at least, to the deference that the village shows to developers who have no incentive or requirement to preserve or restore trees. The canopy increased overall because the canopy grew in non-residential areas, which are less affected by overdevelopment. The overall canopy is resilient because Downers Grove is blessed with large natural areas, but the canopy can only take so much overdevelopment. More important, it is the residential canopy that Downers Grove residents enjoy every day. That enjoyment will be short-lived if the residential canopy continues to shrink. Mr. Barnett also noted that the number of trees in the village has increased in the 40 years that the village has been a tree city, citing the annual survey or annual inventory that the village does every year. But the 2022 annual tree inventory prepared by the village establishes that the village has lost trees since 2001. That year, the total number of trees inventoried was 24,721. In 2022, the number fell to 23,545. That number is almost 700 below the average of 24,231 for the previous 29 years. Since 2001, the trees inventoried has declined by almost 5%. Since 2009, the year the mayor joined the village council, the number of trees inventoried has declined by 1,064. Mayor Barnett's statement regarding the number of trees planted indicates that the village is losing trees at an alarming rate if, despite a rapid increase in the rate of planting post-COVID, the number of trees continues to decline. Mayor Barnett noted that we mourn every tree that we lose. On that, we agree. We mourn every one of the 1,064 trees that we do not have today that we had in 2009. But instead of bragging how well we are doing with trees when maybe we're not doing so well, we need to reverse the loss of trees by holding developers accountable for the loss of trees and green space due to development. When a developer profits from building homes or huge apartment buildings, part of those profits should be used to restore the trees that are lost for the entire community. Thank you.
Others? Subjects not on tonight's agenda.
Carol Richard. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Manager, staff. This is just a little teeny historic kind of comment. It is about something on the agenda, but it wasn't on the agenda till after it was voted. One of the big national and international stories this week is about the latest report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. You've probably read it. It was on the front page of the Tribune this morning. The report outlines changes that have to be made across the globe in order to hold global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius and stave off a chaotic future. All nations must work together so that their efforts have enough impact to keep this global warming down at or below 1.5 degrees. So I think it's serendipitous that this same week, locally, Downers Grove has signed on to the GRC, a larger community. Joining this larger community and giving our actions to improve the environment a greater impact. 149 communities, counting us, have now joined the GRC. Oh, and I forgot to say 195 countries have joined with the report that the Intergovernmental Agency made. The report that the Intergovernmental Panel made also says that actions today have the potential to reshape the planet for thousands of years. I think that's true globally and also locally, so thank you. And I look forward to what we can accomplish.
Thank you. Others, items not on tonight's agenda. Okay, we'll continue with the mayor's report. This is always a challenging part. The good news is there's some agreement that our tree canopy has increased, because that was what it was I said. There's all kinds of qualifiers, actually. It's a pretty in-depth study that presents this. It talks about various things from rail space to paved space, private space, public space, commercial space, residential space, recreational space. It's, of course, all over the map because, frankly, our community has all of those assets. So the good news is the canopy has increased. Context matters. And for those that were paying attention, and genuinely sincere and interested in listening last time I spoke will note that I was touting a couple of things. Our membership as a Tree City USA, the work that our forester does, and the commitment that the village has made to planting trees for the last 40 years. Those are all spot on, and they remain true today. Context matters. We planted 900 trees. That's more than we normally do because couple of things some folks may have heard about. Ash borer and COVID. We plant 400 to 600 trees a year. That's been going on for a decade or more. In COVID, we didn't plant trees, which is why we did 900 the following year. We also were catching up from ash borer. Anybody that would suggest that 1,000 trees lost in that period is somehow demonstrative of a village's lack of commitment to its canopy, lack of commitment to its environment, ought to spend some time with the GRC report we did. You'll get a much better, much clearer picture from that. What I really want to talk about tonight, I'm still going to talk about, which is the folks you saw earlier getting awards. We have an unbelievable public safety team at the Village of Downers Grove. We really do. And generally speaking, when it's not COVID and things are going normally, I spend some time riding along with them. I spend some time with the police department, the fire department, and our public works team. So last Thursday, our police department put up with me for most of a shift, from about 6 till 3:30 or so. And I got the chance to ride with Officer Constantine Michelania. And Constantine is a professional in every sense of the word. And one of the things I've gotten to see in every one of these ride-along situations is a team of public servants who put themselves first. They put themselves before everything else. And so I was writing down a few words that came to my mind. We see lots of things. When you're at 1:30 in the morning in the Village of Downers Grove, you see a lot of things. 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, you see a lot of things. But what you'll see every time in every one of those instances from a Village of Downers Grove public safety employee are things like professionalism, like sincerity, like teamwork, like efficiency, and perhaps the biggest two that jump out at me every time I get a chance to do this is empathy and dignity. Our personnel exhibit and demonstrate a level of empathy that I guarantee every single resident would be proud of. The service they render, there is technical service that we all know about and we appreciate, but the other service that's rendered by our public safety team is the human one. We've talked about keeping people first. We've spent a lot of effort on how important that is. These guys believe it. They live it. It is their culture. It is in their blood. And so if you get a chance to see anybody on our team out on the street, hopefully you're not needing their service, but if you get a chance to see them, say thank you. Say thank you. They're going to really appreciate it. These guys are the most empathetic bunch of professionals that you're going to find, I would suggest, probably anywhere in the U.S. They're really that good. It is fun to watch them work, and it makes you proud to be part of Downers Grove. So, in particular, to our police department tonight, thank you for last Thursday, and keep up the good work. But you'll see this all across the teams that serve us every day. Council member reports. This is the point of the meeting where we talk about goings-on in the community, and council members connect us with other groups or they may be working with. So, Danny, what's on your mind?
No report. Thank you, Mayor.
Chris?
Yeah, just a reminder that early voting has begun. We have voting here at the Lincoln Center at 935 Maple. That runs March 20th through April 1st. Looks like from 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Greg?
I'd just like to join in thanking our first responders, our police and fire departments, for everything that they do. They are absolutely tremendous, some of the best in the country, and it's an honor to serve the village along with them. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Rich?
Yeah, I agree with those comments. Thank you, Commissioner Jose, but no other comments.
Leslie?
Yeah, I am happy, though sad for you, if you have not gotten your tickets, to report that the Grove Foundation's Passport to Dining is already sold out. So thank you to our generous business community and residents for supporting all of Downers Grove. And now hopefully the tickets don't end up with resale values like the latest Girl Scout Raspberry Rallies cookies. But we look forward to seeing everyone who has tickets on April 13th. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Nicole?
just an echo of a thank you to our, our police department and our fire department. They are some of the best. They come up here and we hear these stories and I get chills and a little teary-eyed, and it just makes me continue to be proud to live in this community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all, and good night.